and what fights and for what titles?
Yeah, I mean they put out a $60 pay-per-view every month, and
Yep.
they get hundreds of thousands of buys.
Oh, no question.
You know, one thing that really just has about just the way that MMA is structured and how they have control over, it's one entity. The alphabet soup of the various boxing commissions and organizations, and there's 15 different belts that Justin Bieber can carry down to the ring for Floyd Mayweather. It leaves a boxing fan very confused and a little bit startled. But I do think that we have Leon Costa joining us right now. Go ahead.
Yep, Leon Costa from FrontRowFighter.com joining us right now. WLIE 540 lined up in the three-point stance. Leon, EJ Chyla, Robbie the House Rosenhaus, Scott Douglas here in New York. What's going on, pal?
What's up, buddy? How you doing? Just got out of training tonight.
Fantastic. Leon, before we get into tomorrow night's card, UFC on Fox, do us a favor. Tell us and the audience a little bit about Front Row Fighter, the site that you run.
Oh, excellent, man. Well, what happens is that I'm working a day job for so long, and me being such a diehard MMA fan, I said, why not get a little bit more involved? So we're creating this site, and we're basically getting a fan perspective from the sport itself, what it's really like, behind-the-scenes interviews, and we're really listening to the average person and just actually trying to exploit the sport and also help promote it in such a positive fashion without making it seem like it's such a barbaric and, such a meathead sport, which is like some people have that perspective. So we're really actually digging deep. We're getting our hands dirty, and we have a lot of surprises to come out. We're getting a lot of support lately. We just traveled to the Black Zillions, to American Top Team, and, we have a few more trips in store for us. And soon, we're going to just keep going, pushing as hard as we could.
Yeah, absolutely. The site just jumped off the ground a couple months ago. You can follow them on Twitter at Front Row Fighter, Facebook.com/Front Row Fighter. Again, Leon Costa of Front Row Fighter lined up with us in the three-point stance, WLIE 540 AM, broadcasting worldwide, WLIE 540 AM.com. And Leon, the one thing that we want to ask you before we get into tomorrow night's card, with the growth of MMA and the explosion of the UFC, it's prevalent in a multitude of homes and through a multitude of races, genders, backgrounds. It seems to have no bounds in terms of the fan base. With the way that it's jumped up from what it was 10, 12 years ago, where people thought it was kind of a sideshow, involving freaks like Tank Abbott, Frank Shamrock. Get him, Frank. You know about that.
Yeah.
But
into
evolving into what it is today, where they're drawing 20,000 people per arena in a month, and getting a couple 100,000 pay-per-view buys. What do you think over the next 10 years the growth of MMA will result in say hypothetically 2022?
I'll have to say that since the growth is growing so fast right now, I literally can't even keep up and even guess. But I know that it's going to surpass some sports. Like NASCAR basically just had a plateau right now. We all know the fan base in that. It's gigantic. I'm not saying it's going to be bigger than that as quick maybe, but I'm going to tell you this. MMA is growing so fast, it's going to be one of the biggest sports in the world, guaranteed. Now the UFC is marketing out to India right now, China. They're having a TUF, which is the Ultimate Fighter. And they're going to be doing Australia versus England soon. They're going to have one in China. They're going to, as you know, they're doing Brazil right now.
Cool.
They've done London. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Now, Leon, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a closer look at tomorrow's fight on Fox, and that is in primetime on Fox. It is FREE free for all of you who have never seen an MMA fight before and want to get into it. Tomorrow's the great opportunity. Jamie Varner pulled up a nice upset against Edson Barboza back in May. And Leon, if he pulls off the victory against his opponent Lazan, should we expect Varner to get that shot at the UFC light heavyweight title?
I don't think so just yet. It absolutely was an amazing fight versus Edson Barboza. I had Barboza actually running through him that fight, and I thought if Edson was going to win that fight, he was actually going to get this title shot. Being Jamie that's being back in the UFC, and since he just became back in the UFC, he's actually versing a pretty tough opponent, Joe Lozon. He's very durable. I actually think he's a little bit underrated. But being that, picking up in the UFC, he's only been there for one fight. I think he's got 2, maybe even 3 more fights to prove himself, because it is such a stacked division between Nate Diaz up there, Anthony Pettis on the sidelines, who actually beat the current champion right now. And you know what? He's got a way to go. That division is so stacked. He literally probably needs 2 to maybe 3 more fights, and Joe Lozon's going to put up a big fight for him.
Well, now, Leon, let's talk a little bit about Mike Swick quickly as well. You look at DeMarcus Johnson has been moved to the main card to fight Mike Swick now in order to fill that void that was left with the removal of the Rothwell and Brown bout. Swick's been out of the octagon, I guess it's probably 2.5 years now due to this injury, a set of injuries. So how's Swick going to respond coming off the layoff?
You know what, though? And recent interview that Swick was saying that he feels extremely healthy. You know, he's a little bit more mature of a fighter. He's not, Mike Quick Swick. He used to just be an explosion fighter and just try to give it all that he has. He says now that he's 100% healthy, his body healed. He had 2 years, no blows to the head, no to the body. I have Swick winning this fight. I mean, Johnson is a hell of a fighter. He's a hell of an athlete. But something about Swick, and I looked at his tapes, I think he's actually going to pull this off, and I do not think it's going to be an upset.
I was just talking, Leon, this is Robbie here. You're lined up in the three-point stance with Leon Costa of FrontRowFighter.com. You can give us a call at 631-955-5400. We have a couple minutes left with our guest here before the top of the hour. I do have a question about tomorrow night's one of the main events, Rua and Vera. Now, after initially saying that the winner of that fight would get a shot at Bones Jones, Dana White has since retracted those statements. Now he plans to give the most impressive winner of either one of the two co-main events tomorrow night a shot at the champ. How do you feel about this, and how do the fans out there, you think, feel?
I think they should feel a little bit happier with that decision-making because, Brandon Vera is a hell of an athlete, but that's actually going to be a jump in competition versus him. I mean, the 205 division is actually at a very funny place right now because Bones Jones is actually, my personal opinion, he's a hell of a fighter, but he's a little slightly above the curve. And Machida and Beta right there, we all know that could be a main event as well. And so Vera versus Shogun, it's almost like you have two main events. That's a first-time watcher of MMA. You picked a hell of a card to start right now. I think the most explosion victory is the way to go because, if you take a look at their track records, Brandon Vera's in a one-fight win streak. He had a no contest for Thiago Silva. Dan Henderson, so if he wins this fight, he's automatically getting a shot at the title. So it's kind of like the fans are a little bit uneasy about that. So if someone wins in a spectacular fashion, I say they can get the shot at the title. But in my personal opinion, the winner of both fights should fight each other for a number one contender fight.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a natural progression. You'd see, the two contender fights, the winners of those two fights would go ahead and fight each other. The one thing that, I think about when we talk about what Dana White has done with changing that and changing both main events tomorrow night as having the most impressive winner, take on Bones Jones. He's doing what basically from what I've been told, this decision was made by an overwhelming support of fans, based through social media. Tell me if I'm wrong, but is the UFC just that fan-friendly? Do they do anything and everything they can to, appease their fans? I mean, I think they do. I mean, the growth shows it. I mean, how great is the UFC in terms of, not only just marketing itself, worldwide, but also, giving their fans a product that they actually, have a say in producing?
I will say that the UFC are a bunch of class act individual. Ever since I saw a UFC Fan Expo, first time for my in person, how the fighters represent themselves, and also how Dana White just listens to the people. He wants the sport to be fan-friendly. He wants it to be from a 6-year-old on the stands to an 80-year-old, so no one thinks that it's that barbaric. It's just a beautiful sport with a lot of sportsmanship, and what he's doing is absolutely amazing. Just like with any huge company, if this is what the customers want, he's actually doing what the customers want, and everyone's becoming happy. It's brilliant, it's great marketing, and it's the exact thing the sport needs, considering that it used to have a bad name.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hopefully we'll be able to get it legalized here in New York, so we'll be able to check it. Leon Costa, ladies and gentlemen, from FrontRowFighter.com. Go ahead, check out www.FrontRowFighter.com. They provide nothing but exceptional service to all fans of MMA, exclusive interviews, videos. Check out a couple new videos Leon's posted this week. Follow him on Twitter at FrontRowFighter. Also, Facebook.com/3Point Stance. Leon, we really appreciate you giving a couple minutes tonight. Enjoy the fights tomorrow, and as the next big fights come up, we'll bring you on again. All right, buddy?
Absolutely, guys. Have a great weekend and watch those fights. It's going to be a hell of a card.
Thanks so much. We definitely will, Leon. Again, Leon Costa.